Hello everybody, Flamin' Shark back with another video, and today we are once again back with more Danganronpa 0, and this time we're back only a couple days after the previous Danganronpa 0 video because the previous one was late and there were different things, and the point is the rotation's back to normal, so all the things will be hopefully on time moving forward. Nothing will be too early or too late. Of course, every once in a while things get a little messy, and I am recording this not long before you guys will see it. You guys will probably see this video in about 7 hours if everything goes right. So I'll spend a couple hours recording it, I'll edit it, because there's like no, it's not a face cam video and all that. The video, even when they're really long, they edit fast, render fast. These are pretty easy to edit and all that, and get up quick. So, the fact that I'm recording this not too long before you guys see it isn't really going to be an issue. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to more Danganronpa 0. We finished Volume 1 a couple days ago, and I was really excited about that. But because it had been so long, even by the standards of recently, where we're kind of just getting back in the flow of posting regularly again, and it had been over 2 months since the previous Danganronpa 0 commentary, and then we had the shortest Danganronpa 0 commentary so far, and I guess, considering Danganronpa in general, probably the shortest video. Now, the Danganronpa videos, because they're Let's Play videos and stuff, they trend longer, a bit on the longer side compared to my reactions generally, but this was the shortest Danganronpa commentary last time, so I do want to make sure this will be longer, so I promise this will be 2 hours. Kind of looking for maybe 2.5, but I guarantee this will be at least 2 hours. So, we're going to go to 2 hours, and if we finish a chapter and we're past the 2 hour mark and I feel like it'll be a good stopping point, I will stop there. But, kind of in my mind, I'm kind of looking at 2.5, but I don't know. We're definitely going to go 2 hours, though, for sure. So, that's something to look forward to. As far as actually what happened last time, obviously, we had a few great moments. We had some Kyoko action, which was really cool. Obviously, we got to, we kind of left off with a conversation between Junko and Ryoko, which essentially Junko revealed to Ryoko what her goals were. The first of which, we already know, it's Junko. The second of which being, killing our boy, Matsuda. And that kind of set off Ryoko, and she kind of went running out of her room and, fully focused on saving her world. And in the process, seemingly finding some specks of memory, and she was so determined and passionate about it that she even left her notebook behind. So, where we go from here is anyone's guess. Now, obviously, the first volume had Ryoko on the cover. The second volume has Matsuda on the cover. You guys obviously saw that I actually physically own these now. The two covers, if you guys obviously see my thumbnail in the for the videos, what I did was the two covers are meant to, if you put them side by side, they're like they're kind of like holding hands almost, and that's kind of how I edited the thumbnail for this portion of Danganronpa for DR0, was basically combining the two volume covers, and I thought that was kind of cute. So obviously we're in the Matsuda portion, which could mean that our character perspective is going to change to primarily Matsuda, or it could just be, hey, we put Ryoko on the first cover, Matsuda on the second cover. We did this cute, like, 2-cover combo thing. And that's just the extent of it. Now, obviously, we did get Matsuda chapters in Volume 1, but Ryoko felt like the most relevant character. I mean, this is her story more than anyone else's. And obviously, we got a few other chapters, a little bit of Junko action, some Kyoko action. There were other things, some Jin action, but Ryoko was like the primary main character, and then Matsuda was the secondary main character. So I'm curious if the roles are going to switch. But I don't know. And obviously where we left off, Ryoko was very determined, ironically, to save Matsuda, and from all intents and purposes, given what we do know about the future, and also the way that the story itself is kind of being semi-meta and telling us, her actions to try and save Matsuda will likely bring about his demise, and most likely her demise, at least in a sense, because again, I think she is, Ryoko is someone else, and assuming that all does come to pass as I expect, this is definitely going to, she is definitely going to succumb to despair in a major way, and while it does not seem like Matsuda will become a despair, I definitely think Ryoko will, but not in the way you might initially think, because she is the despair. Anyways, let's jump into Volume 2, Chapter 1 of Danganronpa 0. Yasuke, what is it? Hey, Yasuke, I said what is it? Why are you angry? Are you for real? Because I spent my entire day trying to find a criminal? You should have said it was you who destroyed it all along. Why'd you lie about it? Oh, is this the sandcastle story? From when they were younger? I didn't lie about anything. I just didn't mention it. It's the same thing. Why did you do something like that? Because you never leave your house anymore, Yasuke. Huh? I thought maybe if I made a sandcastle, you'd come look. There's no point in making them if you don't look at them. It's none of your business. Yasuke? Why are you hiding? Shut up. Do you not want anyone to see you cry? Shut up, I'll hit you. You can't hit a girl, Yasuke. You're just another blockhead girl with no personality. You're not gonna make me cry, okay? I'm not trying to make you cry. I won't cry, 'cause you're the one who really wants to cry. What are you talking about? I don't cry. Why do you keep pretending to be strong? I'm not pretending. You don't have to pretend to be strong in front of me. I don't care if I'm a blockhead girl with no personality. There's definitely vibes here. There is definitely vibes, and they are vibes of a certain person that Ryoko totally is. Anyway, if I saw you crying, I bet I'd like you more. That's kinda gross. It's fine if it's gross, because I've decided something. Even if you hide, I'll always be by your side. You can't escape me. You sound like a stalker. I'm not a stalker, I'm your love. Since when are you my love? Is that something you decided by yourself? Hey, since we're lovers, I'll be with you when you're sad. I'm not really sad. There you go, pretending to be strong again. I'm not pretending to be strong, I'm just not sad. Yasuke. She couldn't even remember who I am. She just figured I was some kid she didn't know or care about. I couldn't even call her mom anymore in case it scared... No fucking way. Whoa. Yasuke's mom had, like, amnesia or, you know, some form of it. Presumably very similar to what Ryoko has. Bro, this is so demented. Did Ryoko Is this like some like crazy like... I don't even know how you would go about this, but is she so insane that she gave herself like amnesia somehow? Like did some mental thing almost to play into like some weird Oedipus complex for Yasuke because she loves him so much that in a weird way she did that to gain like that same affection to resurrect feelings of his mother and to like play into that and like some weird like reverse Stockholm bullshit. Like what the fuck? This is creepy. But like how else am I supposed to interpret that? Like that's insane. Interesting. I couldn't even call her mom anymore in case it scared her. I had to pretend to be someone else's kid. I'm not gonna cry over it. Now that she's dead, I've got a load off my shoulders. I don't have to be an actor in a play anymore. That's ironic, given, again, who I think he's talking to. But it was because of the disease. I said it was unavoidable, didn't I? I'm sick of hearing it. The doctor was always saying that. He didn't do anything. If he were really a doctor, he would have cured my mom's disease, and that's, again, it just screams even more why he's so passionate about neurology. He sounds like a phony. If I were a doctor, I would have easily cured you. Are you going to cry? I said I don't cry. Don't worry. I'll never forget about you, Yasuke. This is so creepy. This would be creepy without the context of what happens later on. What? That's a weird thing to say out of nowhere. Like, this literally feels like a little girl, like, doing the weirdest form of like pseudo grooming. I don't know how else to frame it. I don't mean grooming in the normal like sense of the term, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. This is so fucking weird. But if you do forget, wait, sorry. It's not weird, I really mean it. Even if I forget everyone else in the world, I'll absolutely remember you. And that's essentially what kind of happens. But if you do forget, what then? Then you'll cure me, Yasuke. If you become a doctor, you'll be able to cure any disease I have, won't you? Well, yeah, I guess. And if you forget, I'll remember you. But either way, we'll still be together forever. We'd spend our whole lives looking after each other. I knew it. You really are a stalker, aren't you? Anyway, we'll always be together. And hey, since we'll always be together, it's okay to do embarrassing things. It's okay to cry. You can cry forever. You really are weird. So have you given up? You won't laugh at me? I won't laugh at you. You won't try to comfort me? I won't try to comfort you. You won't tell anyone? I don't have any friends to tell it to. I don't have any friends either. Or any family. For the first time in his life, Yasuke Matsuda cried in public. Holy shit, that chapter was fucked. What the fuck was that? Okay, that was disturbing. You know what I love about that chapter, by the way? If you actually look at this chapter, right? Do you notice something about this chapter that was really interesting? I mean, besides the... There's actually two things of note. So if you noticed, the two things of note. Number one, this entire chapter was dialogue except for that last line. And number two, Yasuke was referred to as Yasuke multiple times, but Ryoko was never referred to as Ryoko. Because there's several reasons why that could be the case. One, it might not have been Ryoko. But regardless, it kind of adds to that whole, like, thing. What I like about it is they don't give any dead giveaways here, and, like, to be fair, it's still a theory, but again, I'm pretty fucking confident at this point. Really interesting. Really fucking interesting way to start Volume 2. Anyways, in the usually empty 4th floor of Hope's Peak Academy's faculty building in the East District, only 2 sets of footsteps could be heard. The first belonged to the school's physician. The other belonged to the ultimate neurologist, Yasuke Matsuda. A dreary feeling hung in the air as the physician led the way, dark shadows accenting his face. The school jacket that Matsuda wore over his usual poorly fitted, dingy white shirt clung to his shoulders stiffly as he walked, a testament to how rarely he wore it. Okay, it is a guy. I really owe you one for this, the physician said quietly as he walked in front. Matsuda raised his head to better listen. He's nowhere near my specialty. I was at a total loss for what to do. So I appreciate your cooperation with this. I can't actually tell. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, okay, so that was said. Okay, so that was also said by the physician, sorry. He sounded rather relieved, though Matsuda's response came in an entirely different tone. Still, in the failure, you should talk to an expert about it. Sorry, in the future. Blah. He added on rather sardonically. But failing that, just come to me, I guess. That's about all there is to it, right? That's... The physician choked back his words. From behind, Matsuda couldn't see his face, but it was easy to imagine the man was concerned. Could they not get an expert for some reason? Matsuda took a deep breath and spoke a bit more calmly. It's fine. I'm not going to use the excuse that I'm a student on you. Instead, I suppose I really should be helping where I can. I see. In any case, I owe you my thanks. The physician's face relaxed, though Matsuda's had only become more tense and irritable. He quietly reminded himself to suppress his emotions. Either way, there's no turning back. In order to protect her, I need to keep moving. No, not keep moving. Fall in? Interesting. Matsuda continued following the physician down the corridor, and as they rounded a corner, the atmosphere immediately changed. This portion was eerily silent, and the drop in temperature was noticeable. Along one side of the corridor, each and every window was obscured by thick curtains. The other side was lined with a number of doors, each with a small, heavily tinted window. To top it all off, this corridor was even longer than the last. Since he had first learned of its existence, Matsuda had a particular image in mind for how it looked. As it turned out, he wasn't far off. Usually all the rooms down here are vacant. Matsuda hadn't asked, but he was mildly curious. The physician must have sensed it. Guess he means they're only used for emergencies. The pair continued, with Matsuda glancing around the corridor absent-mindedly, until the physician before him suddenly stopped in his tracks. This is it. He gestured to the rather plain door next to him. Honestly, it was a wonder that he was able to pick it out at all, as it looked just as ordinary as all the other doors. All of the necessary equipment has already been delivered here, but are you certain you can go by yourself? The headmaster had asked for 2 people. It's fine, Matsuda replied flatly. No, but... The physician hesitated to say anything further. Matsuda's blunt response rendered him silent. Both the headmaster and the steering committee have given me full access in their absence. Besides, it would make no difference if 2 people went. In fact, an additional person in the room would likely affect the subject in a negative capacity, so if it's all the same to you, I'd like you to leave it to me from here. I'm assuming the subject being, Izuru. Fucking hell. Kamakura. The physician looked rather meek in response. Unwilling to argue, he gave up and nodded. I see. Well then, I'll leave it to you. He turned away, rounding the corner into the depths of the next corridor. After watching him leave, Matsuda set his sights back to the plain door in front of him and turned the handle. Before the doorway was a wide, dimly lit space filled to the brim with various electronic devices. The equipment was far more impressive than that of the school's humble infirmary, or even its research facilities. Well, that's Hope's Peak Academy for you. It was all Matsuda could think as his eyes scanned the room before him. As he entered, however, a tense atmosphere enveloped him. The fluorescent lights overhead seemed hardly functional in comparison to the ones used in classrooms. The sole window against the black wall was obscured by a thick hanging curtain. Overall, it was dim enough that the light emitted from the electronic equipment stood out more. In the center of the room, surrounded by those small, shimmering lights, was a bed. Matsuda's gaze drifted toward the figure upon it. Slowly, he approached the side of the bed closest to him and studied the boy. He had a soft complexion and a pure, honest face, as if he were a kind and noble swordsman. But something else caught Matsuda's attention more easily. A painful-looking wound on his head, wrapped several times over with a bandage. Despite the fact that we know that Izuru has a scar on his head, I don't think this is Izuru from the description. I'm wondering if they did mention a survivor previously. I wonder if this is the person that survived. Matsuda knew who the boy was. His name was Solshun Murasame, and he was the leader of the student council, as well as being the ultimate student council president. Fucking hell, what a stupid fucking title. That's like, Taka's title is such a silly one, like the ultimate moral compass, ultimate student council president. That's such a ridiculous title. He was also one of the sole survivors of the tragedy of Hope's Peak. After looking him over once more, Matsuda's eyes lingered again on the face. The boy, lying flatly on his back, had his eyes firmly open. Though they saw nothing, they stared straight up at the ceiling, without moving, without blinking. Rough. I'll take a sip of water here. So it is the survivor, or one of the survivors. Again, the other survivor is probably, again, Izuru, I'd imagine. And that's, you know. Anyways. It's been a while, Matsuda said, as though he were talking to any other person. But there was no response. He picked up the medical records next to the bed and looked them over. All of the information written, more or less, he had already been informed of. Soshun Murasame was involved in the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy, during which he suffered serious head trauma. Fortunately, he escaped any life-threatening injuries. Physically, he's been able to recover. However, for what's now been several weeks, he has been unresponsive. The reason as to why remains unknown. As Matsuda returned the medical record to the bedside table, he spoke up once more. "Do you remember who I am? I'm Yasuke Matsuda, from your class. I'm the ultimate neurologist they were talking about. We met several times before." As expected, there was no response. Matsuda continued, prompting him further. "So, why do you think I came here?" Slowly lowering himself into a chair, he watched Murasame's face. His eyes studied it carefully, searching for even the slightest hint of a reaction. "I was asked by the headmaster and the members of the steering committee. So I told them I'd help your recovery. I tried to ask what happened, but they wouldn't tell me a thing. In fact, they did the exact opposite. They want to cover it up. In order to do that, it seems they want to hear the full story from you." Matsuda paused, emphasizing the next words to leave his mouth. Or at least, that's what they say their intentions are. Just as before, Murasame showed no response. Regardless, Matsuda continued. "If you ask me, they're a bit sore that you're still around. And that's why they sent me, to try and speed up the process. But even if I do everything I can here, you're not going to be able to stay at Hope's Peak. I mean, doesn't really matter to me either way. Having you gone is probably their best case scenario. But what if you don't disappear? If you hang around long enough, that'd really screw over their plans, wouldn't it? When that happens, I wonder what they'll do. Once they get the story out of you, they'll be under a lot more pressure. As Matsuda explained the circumstances, he picked up Murasame's right hand. He lifted it just for a moment, and then released. However, the boy's hand showed no sign of strength or muscle movement and dropped straight back onto the bed. But I can't really be sure about that either. They're always trying to hide away the student council. They're already trying to hide away the student council president. There must be someone in particular behind the incident, isn't there? Matsuda leaned in close until their faces were nearly touching. He peered into Murasame's eyes, and only empty, unseeing eyes stared back. So, what do you think? Do you know who the culprit is? And if so, why are they being protected? Of course, there was no reply. Murasame's expression and eyes failed to show even the slightest recognition. It really is useless. Matsuda shook his head, growing frustrated. Well, maybe not. It's just the exam itself that was the failure. He scratched his head, mumbling to himself. Oh, that's right! An idea had sparked in Matsuda's mind. And as he spoke once more, he feigned as casual a tone as he could. By any chance, do you know anyone by the name of Junko Enoshima? Murasame twitched slightly, oh lord, and his eyes did the same. Instantly, Matsuda's gaze narrowed into a glare, and Murasame turned directly toward him. Despite the sudden development, Matsuda's reaction was quite calm. I knew it. He couldn't help but feel discouraged. Because he fucking knows. He knows Junko's secret. And he wishes. Fucking wishes. That he wasn't seeing this mention. It would be better if he were still unconscious. Unfortunately, he wasn't. Although Matsuda had expected such a thing, and prepared for it a long time ago. This was the point where he had no choice but to fall in, like a fate that he had been doomed to since his first breath. The curse of an unchangeable destiny. He knew that, no matter what he did, it could not be stopped. The ground he had been firmly walking upon up to this point had just collapsed beneath him. As he fell, he sank to the bottom of the deep abyss, and the taste of it filled his mouth. Though it was only a metaphor, at the same time, it was entirely real. Even as he fell, Matsuda knew exactly what was happening, and that's the problem. Fucking good shit, man. This story is really good. You know, I've been really impressed with Danganronpa as a series overall. I thought the first game was great. You know, I think in the heat of the moment, I do, like if you guys kind of want, like, updated opinions, right? In the heat of the moment, I feel like I overrated Danganronpa 1 a little bit. Great game. Stand by that. But Danganronpa 2 is a fucking masterpiece. Like, Danganronpa 2 is near perfect. And I think it actually makes Danganronpa 1 better in hindsight because of its existence, because Danganronpa 1, like, thematically didn't feel complete, and Danganronpa 2 essentially completes it, but my point is, I've really liked everything I've experienced. Like, Danganronpa 1, great game, Danganronpa 2, incredible game, and Danganronpa 0 so far has been a great read. Anyways, Chapter 3. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's like, you know, I've been being conservative. I gotta say it's like 75-80% now. This is totally what's going on. The dazzling sunlight that bore down on the pavement outside the dorms was so immensely bright that I couldn't help but squint. Strangely, at the same time, it wasn't strong enough to feel the heat on my skin. In fact, I found myself shivering as a chilly breeze blew past me. Regardless, I sat down on a nearby bench, feeling entirely relaxed and free of stress, and let out a content sigh. Ah, such a peaceful day. I also shouted it happily into the wind itself, but before the urge overtook me, a thought entered my mind. Curious, I tilted my head to the side. Huh? Wasn't there somewhere to go? I needed to go? I took Ryoko Otonoshi's memory notebook out of my backpack. I guess she does have it, never mind. Opening to verify what exactly it was that I needed to do, but my hand suddenly stopped. By chance, the page I opened my notebook to was mostly taken up by a drawing of a man. My heartbeat grew a bit faster in my chest. Ah, Matsuda. The picture didn't seem all that different from the real thing, but my heart was only beating faster by a little bit. Perhaps it's not really that similar after all? Maybe if I change it a little, it'll look more like him? It wasn't that I couldn't remember Matsuda's face. I just needed to use my heartbeat in place of my memory, that's all. Maybe it's the eyes, or perhaps the mouth, I thought to myself as I made edits here and there. After some time, my heart was pounding heavily, like it would in front of the real thing. Yep, that's probably much better. I patiently examined it, repeating his name in my mind. Matsuda, Matsuda, Matsuda. This is one of the most, unique, yanderes I've ever seen. It's such an interesting... Because, that's how we have to classify her, right? She's a fucking psychopath, but, in a really interesting way. And obviously, in an even more interesting way, given the reveal that I think is coming at some point. But, on face value, Ryoko is a very interesting character. And that's not even getting into the fact that she's actually a goddess in disguise. See? My heart's pounding. I feel it beating even harder as I brought the portrait closer. The nearer it drew to my face, the stronger the feeling in my chest became. I don't think I'm perverted or anything like that, but I wanted so much more than just a kiss from the likeness of Matsuda that I held before me. I wouldn't necessarily call that perverted, no. I think your average person wants more than a kiss from the person they love. Generally speaking, that's gonna be the case. But seconds later, I found myself tilting my head again. Huh? Wasn't there somewhere I needed to go? With that thought in mind, I bade farewell to Matsuda's picture and began flipping through my notebook once more. After skimming pages for a short while, I finally remembered, but at the same time felt my mood shift in an instant. I had no idea why, but my entire body began trembling. I remembered. I remembered that ridiculous murderer's confession. That's right. Junko Enoshima also told me her goals that time. Kill your beloved darling, Yasuke Matsuda. She said that. Even if I don't remember, I'm still involved. I was still shaking. There was no way that was right. I have to warn Matsuda of the danger he's in. I need to go to the biology building in the East District. That's where Matsuda's lab is. I have no time to lose. I leapt up from the bench and began to sprint with all my might. I could only assume there was either a break between classes or it was lunchtime, as the campus was more crowded than usual with students. I pushed my way past countless people, refusing to slow down for anyone. Naturally, those in my way shouted and yelped in surprise and anger, but they had nothing to do with me. It's so interesting, right? Because it's that is such a deranged mindset, but it is understandable in her perspective, in her situation, even if it shows some of her less than stellar tendencies, because whether she doesn't remember anything or not, again, it goes back to the fact that she's so obsessive and dependent on Matsuda that she literally views the world basically as pointless. Matsuda literally is her world, and that goes back to what we were talking about at the end of Volume 1, and why I called Part 4 what I called it on YouTube. Even the title of that episode was thematic to what I'm talking about right now. I bolted as fast as I could across the pavement, leaving my thoughts behind. Each and every one of those unneeded, idle thoughts flew away with the wind that rushed past me. I was a bullet of love flying directly towards Matsuda. Adorable. Cutting through the central plaza, I arrived at the East District. I continued pushing my way past the other students, practically driving toward the biology building. My throat had become dry and pained, my breathing staggered and heavy. I leapt up the stairs, continuing to push down other thoughts, like how much my throat hurt or how much I'd like to take a long and much-needed rest, and kept sprinting. I didn't even bother to knock on the lab's door when I arrived. Anyways, yeah, I can relate to that, especially when I'm doing these readings where I basically talk continuously for a couple hours or whatever. Instead, I threw it open. Matsuda! I screamed with all my remaining strength. A more desperate scream, I'd imagine. But again, I'm not going to scream because, again, it's almost nearly 5:30 in the morning. And, again, as with many of the times I'm recording this stuff, my voice is fine, but it's, you know, I already feel strain. And I'm going to be talking for another, who knows how long? 2 hours, probably. So, yeah. In the middle of the room stood a shorter boy around my age, who immediately straightened up in surprise and began trembling. With wide eyes, he turned to me, completely rigid and frozen. I doubt this is, this might be a new character, because I doubt this is our boy. Yeah, I doubt this is Kamishiro, because I doubt her initial reaction would be a shorter boy around my age. She would probably think a kid. So let's see who this is. Somehow he doesn't look familiar at all. Come to think of it, my heart isn't racing or beating any harder than usual. Could it be? You're not Matsuda, are you? That's not a clear answer. What do you mean by You know? Theory time. A shorter boy around my age. No, okay. I had a theory as to who this was, but the fact that Ryoko thinks he's a boy, even though that's actually, you know, despite... that's the reason, even though that might, you know, actually be correct, I don't think... So my initial thought was this could be Chihiro, and the reason my mind jumped to Chihiro is because, if I remember correctly, it was the work, according to Danganronpa 2, the Neo World program was made using research from the ultimate neurologist, the ultimate therapist, and the ultimate programmer. Now, obviously, ultimate therapist, no fucking clue, but neurologist would be Yasuke, and programmer would be Chihiro. So maybe they've interacted before in some of their research. I was just thinking that maybe there'd been some interaction between the two, given that just purely on that fact, and like obviously the fact that they pulled data from that involved, you know, Yasuke's data and Chihiro's data in order to eventually make the Neo World program really doesn't mean that they necessarily would have had anything to do with each other or ever met. But I think it's just the fact that in that game, while it wasn't by name, there was a line where the two characters, not that I knew it was Matsuda at the time, but the two characters were linked together by collectively by that line in Danganronpa 2. So my mind jumped to that connection when I saw shorter boy around my age. But again, her initial reaction probably would have been shorter girl around my age, presuming that Chihiro, 1, is fucking adorable, and 2, is dressed the way that we typically see Chihiro dressed in Danganronpa 1. I ended up yelling loud. Sorry. That's not a clear answer. What do you mean by I ended up yelling louder than I should have, as I was more focused on catching my breath. I mean, I'm not him. Then where's Matsuda? I looked around the lab frantically. God damn it, there's no one else here. He's out now, probably. Probably? If you looked for him, you'd know. I roared back at him. I was at my wit's end. Ugh, come on. Almost instantly, with little stamina I had left, drained away, and I fell to my knees. Of all the times he could disappear, where did he go? I continued lamenting my situation on the ground. After a moment, the boy ran to my side. It's okay, you shouldn't worry so much. I'm sure he'll be back soon. He looked down at me with concerned eyes. Why is he so worried about me? Or maybe it wasn't concern in his eyes. Maybe he wasn't worried at all, but was really... Actually, you're a little suspicious, I noted. Huh? Or is that just your personality? I mean, maybe you're the kind of boy that has his eye on vulnerable, clearly distraught high school girls. Eek! Keep away! And, like, that's really interesting, too, because this is also kind of a side effect of her, you know, being so much of a simp for Matsuda. She does idolize him so much that despite the fact that he acts like a dick to her, she does kind of have, and, like, this, I mean, yeah, she is kind of, like, a bit, like, clueless in a lot of ways, but she does kind of have, like, a subtly negative mindset towards the world in general and people that aren't Matsuda. It is kind of really interesting because she's such an upbeat, positive person, but you see these, like, threads of the fact that, like, Ryoko is not as nice or as good of a person as as adorable as she comes off when we see her interacting with Yasuke. It's really interesting, and it's subtle, and it's just, like, really good writing. Like, this character is probably one of the best written characters in Danganronpa so far. I really like Ryoko as a character, which is really interesting because while I think, like, conceptually, like, Junko is incredible and, like, her performance is incredible and, like, I adore her. She's my favorite character. My favorite written character in Danganronpa so far is Nagito, because I think Nagito is an incredibly interesting character, and incredibly well written, makes a lot of sense, despite being a fucking psychopath that, you know, says crazy shit. I understand his character, I get why he is the way he is, and I think he's fucking awesome, right? Like, Junko is my favorite, but Nagito is probably a close second. Ryoko, similarly to Nagito, but ironically in more subtle ways, I feel like, is really well written, and I think the dichotomies, the juxtapositions, the little quirks of her character are just really well done. And I think she's super interesting, which would be very ironic, because if she's who I think she is, ironically, Junko becomes even more goated in the weirdest way possible. Anyways, I fell onto my behind and tried to scoot away from the boy, who quickly looked away. I was shocked to realize my skirt had flipped up, showing much more than it should have. Oh, that's fucking great. I mean, it could be worse. You could be fucking Nikon here. Eek! Frantically, I patted down my skirt once more. The boy, still looking away with a bright red face, spoke up. No, that's not it at all. You seemed worried. I was only trying to help. You liar! This is the first time we've met. I'm a complete stranger. It's totally weird to be concerned for someone you've never met. You probably have an ulterior motive or lewd intentions or... Huh? Suddenly the boy's expression and tone seemed far more serious. A complete stranger? He turned and looked at me, seemingly surprised. Huh, that reaction. So then... Huh? Have we met before or something? Once again, the boy seemed startled, though his demeanor quickly became more cordial. My name is Makoto Naegi. Oh. You know, the Hans... See, I would have said the Hans should have given it away, but this is the weird thing, is Junko says huh, too, as does Ryoko. so I've seen enough huhs in this story that it didn't give it away, even though Makoto's the king of the huh. Huh. You know, I wasn't really expecting you, Makoto. And you know Ryoko how? And Ryoko's confused. Ryoko's confused that you seem to be a complete stranger. Because he knows Junko, because Junko and Makoto are in the same class. Right? Also, we're 50% through the story, by the way. Because technically Volume 1, I guess, was slightly shorter than Volume 2, but we've actually reached 50%. Ah, it's a pleasure. As I replied, my line of sight dropped down to Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook. Obviously, his name didn't sound familiar to me at all, but I checked for any sign of it in the notebook regardless. It wasn't anywhere in there. Here's the thing. Ryoko Otonashi has not met Makoto Naegi. That lines up. Because he wouldn't know Ryoko Otonashi. He would know Junko Enoshima. Like, it's gotta be, but it's... See, this is the thing, right? Like, the appearance stuff and just little stuff like that, and obviously they've been portraying Ryoko with, like, red hair, so, like, I don't know what the situation is with that. Like, there's a few things there. Like, I'm kind of leaning towards the idea that Ryoko's natural hair color is actually red. That wouldn't surprise me, but, like, there's just a lot of weird stuff here that I don't know. Anyways, so we haven't met before. As the look on his face shifted, as the look on my face shifted to confusion, so did his own. Each reaction of his seemed more and more suspicious. No matter what he says, this guy is definitely some kind of pervert. Holding my notebook in one hand, I stood and questioned him further. So, why are you a student here? Eh? Huh? You don't have a reason? He really was suspicious after all. I narrowed my eyes as I stared him down. No. There's a reason. It's just, well, I wouldn't call it anything special. As he trailed off, he looked away once more. He was becoming more and more suspicious by the second. I continued to eye him cautiously. Okay, fine. The boy nodded, reluctantly answering the question. I'm here since I'm particularly lucky? Excuse me? I'm the ultimate lucky student. Well... apparently, you are. And it's just really interesting to think that there's more than one. Because the real ultimate lucky student is fucking not you, bro. Even though I guess one could say in the grand scheme of things that he's kinda lucky. Ultimate lucky student? For some reason I was hesitant to dig any deeper. So you're saying your talent is good luck? I don't really get it either, but that's what the school tells me. Each year, the school chooses one person from a nationwide lottery of ordinary high school students, and that student is recruited to Hope Speak Academy as the ultimate lucky student. So I guess by chance, I was the winner? There's something strange about that. That seems like kind of a ripoff. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Naegi seemed just as confused by the approach as I was. Regardless, his innocence seemed more and more apparent, but I was still wary to trust him. It was much easier to keep the assumption that he was a pervert. Not that I only have sex on the mind or anything. That's my pen, but I just have to mention this. All of us, have you noticed, since this volume started, she's more wary of people than she was before. But she's also hornier than she was before. And you know who's pretty horny? Junko. I'm gonna beat this fucking drum until they fucking confirm this shit. I hate that I'm gonna have to wait till the fucking end of the story, too. Like, just give me what I fucking want already, DR0. It's so funny, because when I first came up with that, I was like, this is a crazy theory that I feel like has some semblance of possibility. And literally, since I've said that, I've only gotten more confident with, like, every chapter. It's wild. So, what's Mr. Ultimate Lucky Student doing in this lab? Do you happen to know Matsuda? And don't lie to me. Well, Naegi pulled something out of his uniform pocket that resembled a thin smartphone. Matsuda dropped this. I know how much of a hassle it is to lose something, so I thought I'd give it back to him, but oh, did he drop his scroll? His his student handbook? What is that? I've never seen it before. Well, I'm sure this isn't your first time seeing it. Look, it's an electronic student handbook. Because Ryoko Otonashi does not have a student handbook. Because Junko Enoshima has a student handbook. Fucking hell, this is wild. Naegi explained that the handbook was only given out to students from the main school. It's a high-tech piece of equipment with a variety of uses, as well as just acting as a student's ID. If a student doesn't have theirs on hand, they lose access to certain facilities. I found it by a bush out in the courtyard. It's kind of... What the fuck? Why was it by a bush out in the courtyard? That's terrifying. It's kind of a pain to lose this, so I thought I should come bring it to him as quickly as possible, but he doesn't seem to be here. What? So then, does that mean Naegi's not a... It's no good. I can't do it. What? I won't apologize for saying you were suspicious. You're only pretending to be a nice guy. I'm not suspicious, he stammered. Oh my god, I could totally hear fucking Bryce saying that line. Fucking hell. I don't know what's funnier. The fact that Bryce Papenbrook, the guy who voices fucking Kirito in the SAO dub, by the way, greatest anime of all time. I am totally not joking. I totally don't kind of hate Sword Art Online or anything, but, it's just so funny to me because, like, Sword Art Online is such a meme anime, and like, Bryce plays the main character, and Makoto, and then in the Japanese side, you have Megumi, who's, like, the GOAT, who plays the main character of possibly my favorite anime of all time, so it's like the dichotomy between the two voices of Makoto and Nagito are so fucking funny. It's one of the funniest things ever that, like, fucking Kirito and Shinji are the fucking voices of Makoto and Nagito. It's so fucking funny. He stammered, shaking his head. I'm not pretending to be nice or anything either. I just came here to give back Matsuda's student handbook. That's really all there is to it. Really? Really? Well, I guess whether or not he's telling the truth, I'll just have to believe him for now. Fine, I understand. You believe me now? Naegi breathed a sigh of relief, holding his hand to his chest. I lifted my arm to point directly at him. In my head, the momentum of it made a bold sound, as though I were an ace attorney! Let's go! Let's fucking go. Because we all know Danganronpa, one of its biggest inspirations, without a shadow of a doubt, is Gyakuden Saiban, Ace Attorney, you know, 100%, right? No doubt. And you guys know I love Ace Attorney. We will be playing the newer Ace Attorney games that I haven't played. Ace Attorney 6 and the Great Ace Attorney games down the line on the channel after I wrap up, you know, Fate and Danganronpa. And it works out really well because Ace Attorney 6 is going to be part of the collection that comes out early 2024. So... that'll be out well in time by the time I'm getting to that, obviously. So, yeah, we will be doing Not all of them, because I'm a ginormous fan. There's probably Ace Attorney background music playing right now as I speak. But I definitely love it, and it's fucking great. And I think, yeah, anytime I see an Ace Attorney reference, I pop so hard for it, because it is kind of like one of my favorite things of all time. What you said was pretty misleading. You should have said that from the very beginning that you weren't suspicious. Huh? Sorry. I wasn't really sure why he was apologizing, but he did seem sincerely sorry about it. I mean, you are kind of accusing him of being silly. But, you know, that's pretty unlucky. Fuck you, Junko. Oh my god, there's so many things in this conversation, little things that are, like, screaming that this is Junko. Like, I feel like this is the... Weirdly, this conversation is the one that gives me the most Junko vibes. Like, she's horny, she mentions how unlucky he is, which is super Junko, or Monokuma. Like, it's just fucking weird. I mean, coming all the way here to return a lost item only to find he wasn't here? Maybe that was rude to say to someone who's the ultimate lucky student. No, I'm used to this bad luck now, Naegi replied, his expression seeming somewhat resigned. Claiming to be the ultimate lucky student, then saying he's used to his bad luck. Sounds like his talent is super unreliable. What a strange guy. Strange. I don't think I could find a word that suited him more than that. He's just a strange guy. He's so ordinarily ordinary that it makes him strange. Well, yeah, because Makoto was a parody on, like, visual novel protagonists. The joke that the visual novel protagonists are so generic. And, like, that's what made him almost interesting as a character, was he was generic, but, like, that was the joke. Whereas, like, Hajime is not a generic character, in my opinion. I actually think Hajime is quite interesting, whereas Makoto is interesting because of how generic he is. Like, that's the joke, and that's, like, the gimmick, at least early on, with his character. So it's, like, but that's, like, the kind of, like, meta element with Makoto, whereas, again, Hajime is a bit more of an interesting protagonist. And obviously I prefer Hajime, but I think Makoto's fun for because of that. So, you know, to each their own, though. I know there's a lot of big fans of our boy Naegi, so good for you guys. According to my notebook, every student at Hope's Peak Academy is motivated and looks... Fucking hell. Drop my pen. I've been playing with my pen because it's kind of like I'm in theory mode. I'm not taking any notes at the moment or anything, but I've actually taken almost no notes on Danganronpa 0. I've actually... a lot less than I was expecting, but I am just kind of messing with my pen in my hands and just kind of, you know, kind of in that theory mode. I'm thinking, so... And once in a blue moon, I drop it. According to my notebook, every student at Hope's Peak Academy is motivated and looks towards the future. They're highly competitive and overflowing with ambition. They're brimming with hope. If I were in his shoes, I'd probably feel bad. Now, that's the interesting thing, right? They're brimming with hope. Again, this goes into the kind of meaningless description of hope. It works better for despair because the whole point, you know, the meaninglessness of existence is a core tenet of despair. So despair being a meaningless concept in and of itself induces despair for those who are overcome by despair. So it's like a never-ending loop, right? Whereas like hope is just silly, right? And like again, Danganronpa 2 emphasizes what's actually important and is really cool in that way. But we'll, you know, again, watch my Danganronpa 2 Let's Play, or play the game. Actually do both, if for some reason you haven't. Can't imagine why you'd be here, because I went out of my way in the first episode to be like, nah, bro. Anyways. But it didn't seem to be the case with him. Maybe that's why he seemed so strange? While I was considering it, Naegi interrupted my train of thought. But if that's true... Without even realizing it, I asked him to repeat himself. If what's true? Huh? It's nothing. It's not important, he replied hurriedly. He must have just been talking to himself. If it's not important, then you can tell me. What do you mean by if that's true? For some reason, I found myself pressing him on what it was he had said before. Everything about this boy's demeanor just made him so strange to me. Hey, tell me already. If it's not important, then you should be able to tell me, right? Answer me. Okay. Did you need to say it twice like that? I only said it once, didn't I? Huh? Did he really? I've already forgotten. Whatever, just hurry up and tell me. If you don't, I'll end up forgetting what it is you said in the first place. Well, I mean, it's only a rumor, so I was never sure if I could actually believe it, but I was thinking it might be true after all. A rumor? I pointed at him once again, this time only a few centimeters from his forehead. Was it a rumor about me? I won't stand for any awful rumors out there that are dragging my name through the mud. I mean, it could be a rumor about Matsuda or Ryoko. No, it's nothing like that. So then what kind of a rumor is it? It's... Naegi avoided eye contact as he continued. It's just that the rumor said that there's a student on campus that becomes forgetful. Somehow I couldn't say anything more. Any knowledge of how to string together a sentence had entirely disappeared from my mind. I had wanted to ask him if he knew me before I became forgetful, but I found myself unable because that's a mental block, both. I suddenly raised my voice out of nowhere. A violent shudder ran through my body as though I'd been struck by lightning. Holy shit, what the fuck is happening? What's wrong? Naegi's eyed me with a worried look on his face. I quickly opened Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook again and flipped through the pages and flipped and flipped and flipped. And then for a moment, I felt as though I was blinded by an explosion of light. The memories in my notebook collided with a flash of inspiration, causing a violent chemical reaction. Sandwiched between the 2 pages of my notebook was a single letter. Dear Miss Ultimate Pitiful Forgetful Girl, definitely Junko. I've taken all the precious past memories you've so meticulously chronicled. There are a lot of them, and they're filled to the brim with memories of Yasuke Matsuda. That's the entire weight of your past right there, isn't it? Isn't it? Am I right? It is! Hey, earlier you said a student had become forgetful, didn't you? I bounced up, filled to the brim with excitement. So then, the students here knew about me before I became forgetful? You too, right? You also knew me before I was like this, come on! Calm down. Naegi held up his hands, trying to placate me. I don't really know what happened, but it seemed like it was due to some sort of illness. Being honest, I wasn't really paying too much attention, since I'm not really all that good at talking to people. It's fine, just hurry up and tell me. Did you know me before I was forgetful? Did you? Well, that's... Go on! Yeah, I did. He finally gave a small nod. Holy shit. Makoto knew Ryoko, and I think that's because he did it. I think that's because he knows Junko and Oshima, because they were in the same class together. He finally gave a small nod. I knew it, I muttered quietly to myself. The students at this school knew me before I was forgetful. That means I became that way after coming to this school. So then what about that blackmail letter Junko and Oshima had written to me about my past memory? Did I really ever have these other important memory notebooks? No. Maybe it was all just a trap so she'd get me to cooperate with her. I also think it's more metaphorical than that. It makes sense for you to take it literally, and that was probably planned by Junko, but I think she means it in a metaphorical sense. No, maybe it was all just a trap so she'd get me to cooperate with her. In other words, nothing but a lie. In that case, what else did she say? Let's see. She told me she killed someone in the Central Plaza, and she also told me she was going to kill Matsuda. But wait, does someone as strange sounding as this Junko Enoshima even exist in the first place? Does someone as strange sounding as this Junko Enoshima even exist in the first place? Now here's the thing, right? Like, it can go either way. Like, whether Ryoko is the quote-unquote dominant personality or Junko is the dominant personality doesn't matter, right? Like, it means nothing. In the grand scheme of things, it's the same deal, more or less. Like, there's certainly questions I have, like, obviously ultimate fashionista and ultimate, you know, analyst, right? And like that, and like, there's definitely lore here that we don't have pieced together yet, and like how these two can exist. But I'm telling you, I'm fucking right. And it feels like we're actually pushing close to a reveal for this, which is interesting because it's still, we're only halfway through the story. But I'm assuming she's not actually going to figure it out. As the thoughts whirled around in my head, I tried to remain focused on my notebook. There were two key phrases that seemed to be more significant. Lie and Junko Enoshima. The words written on the page began to mingle with the thoughts in my mind, swirling as well. They gradually circled faster, turning and rushing around until they were all mixed together. At that point, for some reason, I felt a strange tingling sensation deep in the depths of my head. This sensation is... Huh? I feel like I'm remembering something. Oh my god, this is... Give it to me. I know you guys are gonna cuck me, but give it to me. Hey? An annoying voice came pounding into my thoughts. It was Naegi, so very unbothered by everything. At that moment, I began to lose concentration on my notebook. Fuck you, Makoto. I think I can only almost remember it. I think I can almost remember it. Hey. Shut up! Hey. Ugh, come on, I'm trying to concentrate here. Hey. And then she finally says it. Would you shut up already? I shouted at him as I raised my face from the notebook, and then I froze. An unfamiliar man stood before the both of us. Oh, is this gonna be our boy? Matsuda? Huh? Who is that? The man's hands gripped Naegi's shoulders. He wore an unfamiliar school uniform and had long, unfamiliar hair. His pitch-black silhouette was a stark contrast to his ghostly white complexion. Piercing eyes, not unlike a reptile's, seemed to be carved in his face. Is this our boy? No, our other boy that seemingly died? Mashida, I want to say is his name. Could be wrong. I actually didn't write his name down because I thought he died. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and immediately a siren, I assume, blared in my head, letting me know something was severely wrong. My heart began pounding faster and faster to the point where I thought I might be having a heart attack. Hey? Naegi's expression was that of shock and was accompanied by his body going entirely stiff. He came in after us. Do you know each other? If you do happen to know him, could you do me a favor and tell him to let go of me? Unfortunately, I don't think I have any idea who he is, I answered. Oi, what was that? The strange man growled in a low voice. Don't tell me you've forgotten me already. That's a little harsh, don't you think? Wait, so you really do know him? Naegi asked, more puzzled than before. The man's eyes drifted down to him distrustfully. Oh, yeah, wait. Yeah, okay. Whether we have met before or whether it is simply fate, neither are of any concern to you. You've just been caught up in it all. In the end, it's just bad luck. I quickly dropped my line of sight to my notebook, skimming for any memories about the stranger. There was only one person who seemed to match. Could you be Ishiki Madurai? Yeah, Madurai, that's what it was. Sorry about that, I actually forgot his name. I just assumed bro was dead. That's right. Later that night in the central plaza, I, Madurai, was killed by my own target. Killed by your own target? Despite what he said, he looked completely uninjured to me. You see, I am immortal. What the fuck? Eh? Sensing my doubt, the man laughed strangely as a sick smile grew on his face. Immortal? What is this, a fantasy novel? You're not being serious, are you? Can you say that for certain? What do you mean? I'm truly immortal. Were I not, it would be unexplainable how I'm not now uninjured. Well, I don't know the answer to that, but you're making it sound like a video game or something. Ironically, this one's not a video game. Can I ask something? Naegi cut in. The guy who came in after us. Madurai, right? If I heard you right, you don't mean Madurai from the student council. Student council? I said without thinking. I couldn't fathom seeing this creepy man dressed fully in black in the student council. I see. The boy knows. Madurai grimaced, closing his eyes as he murmured his words. That's right. I'm a survivor from the student council. Survivor? You're still pretending to be innocent after so long? Madurai opened his eyes once more and stared at me carefully. It's because of the tragedy that this all happened. That incident is the reason why the student council is in the state it's in. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, that's the thing. I was thinking, I guess, yeah, he is obviously another survivor here, but I thought he was dead, but apparently he's immortal. What the fuck? Madurai paused and shook his head, as though discounting his own words. No, that's not it. Perhaps it's wrong for me to say I was lucky to survive. It would be more accurate to say I simply remained alive. Yes, that's it. Luckily, I remained alive. I was not even given the chance to fight, and for that, I shall not forgive them. I will absolutely not forgive them of stealing my chance to protect the student council. Who was it? Who did it? Madurai spat out as he clenched his hands around Naegi's shoulders. The boy's face distorted with pain, but despite the discomfort, he still tried to interject. Excuse me, I may not know the details, but I understand you feel angry about what happened to the student council, and I understand that you must hate the person who did this, but I think it might be good to instead consider rebuilding the student council before anything else. Rebuilding? Rebuild it? Me? Nah. Why do you even think someone like me belongs in the student council to begin with? Huh? Fucking Makoto. I was only elected so the other members would be able to feel relaxed while performing their duties. I'm only the ultimate bodyguard after all. I did what I could for the student council. Then, now, and forever, I'm just a protector. That's all. I heard Madurai grind his teeth. That explained why he's so salty. As he said the words, his voice was filled with bitter hatred. But during that time of emergency, I was not able to help them. I wasn't even a target during the incident. Perhaps the criminal did not consider me to be a member of the student council. Can you even imagine how humiliating this has been for me? I wasn't even given a chance to utilize my skills. The feeling of having my own talent trampled on was... Try to think of what that must feel like, you bastards. I guess, in a way, Makoto always knows what that feels like, but you know. Madurai gripped Naegi's shoulders tighter than ever. The boy cried out as the pain grew sharper. Now I can only protect the remaining dignity of the student council. It will not end until I've atoned, until I've exacted my revenge. I must confront my failure. I am no longer able to sit idly by. I am willing to do anything. The man's eyes were stained red, not focused on any one thing anymore. He seemed dead set on nothing other than driving home his point. I don't know anything about what happened. I tried to clear myself of anything he suspected me of doing. An overwhelming fear settled upon me as I tried to find any excuse to run away. I don't have anything to do with the student council, or know anything about any incidents that happened, or anything dangerous of that sort at all. I'm just an innocent bystander. As if, Madurai growled, as though he were delivering a death threat to an enemy. We discussed it before. You know all about the incident. I really don't know anything about it. If you think I'm lying, then please check my notebook. I opened Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook and waved it in front of Madurai. I haven't written anything in here about it. This is my proof. I don't know anything about it, and I have nothing to do with it. Would you cut the crap already? A voice overflowing with fury pierced through my notebook, striking me directly. That notebook of yours doesn't prove a thing. Why are you hiding the truth? Are you the criminal's accomplice, held to a vow of silence? Or maybe it's that you're... I said I have nothing to do with it. I suddenly screamed at him. Instantly, I regretted doing so. It was only going to fuel his fire. After all, I was certain he would explode at me in return. But it seemed my prediction was entirely incorrect. In fact, his expression was surprisingly blank. Ellipses. All emotion had left his face. He didn't so much as blink. It was as though time itself had frozen for him. In the silence, and beneath the weight of Madurai's malice, Makoto turned to look behind himself timidly. Come to think of it, I haven't heard this boy's name yet, have I? Madurai remained expressionless with only his mouth moving. I'm Makoto Naegi? Madurai laughed slowly and leaned down to speak in Naegi's ear. Say, Naegi, were you listening to what I was saying earlier? Huh? Oh my god, I hate that this is the fucking huhs, man. Makoto, stop. Suddenly, Madurai released Naegi's shoulders, only to place both hands firmly on either side of the boy's head. So he's either covering his ears or he's about to squish his head. I mean, obviously, Makoto's gonna be fine, but, you know. Holy shit, that's disturbing. The art, like, the description just does not do him justice. Like, I know what he looks like, and he's got that dumb-ass tongue, but he looks fucking ridiculous in the art. Ah! Naegi's face instantly morphed into a terrified expression. I told you before, didn't I? I'm willing to do anything for vengeance. Madurai seemed more demon than man as he opened his mouth. He laughed with a sharp grin, his voice dripping with deadly venom. This is bad. This guy is absolutely insane. The only thing my body was able to do in that instance was shiver and tremble like a frightened little rabbit. I have no choice but to make a run for it, and fast. You're not thinking of running, are you? The foot I'd lifted in an effort to move froze in midair. If you do that, what do you think will happen to this boy here? What? As he spoke, Naegi's face changed shade from blue to ghostly light. What a colorful face that boy has. What a weird thought to have right now, Ryoko. This is the last warning you get, so watch yourself. If you don't listen to me, this guy's head will be oh so tragically crushed in an unfortunate accident. What the? I felt nothing but bewilderment as the both of them stared at me. Say something. Madurai's stare terrorized me, the gaze of a man who is about to do something reckless. Help me. Naegi's eyes pleaded to me, in need of a savior. Terrorizing eyes and pleading eyes, both entirely focused on me. And what a bother. Okay, this could mean two things. This could be Ryoko being like, fuck this shit. Or it could be she just gazed into a third pair of eyes, and it's our boy Matsuda, and that's what his eyes are saying. Oh, yeah, it looks like, yep, it's classic. This is the classic fucking Ryoko response. Okay, it was a hassle to bother with either. There's nothing I'd really be able to do, or even wanted to do, I guess. That's why, for me, this was something that had nothing to do with me. That's right, it has nothing to do with me. Sure, I happen to be swept along with the current, but that's all. I had no part in how the situation came to be. I don't even know anything about what happened. That's why it has nothing to do with me, 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 nothing to do with me. I mumbled quietly, reminding the people in front of me as well as myself. I stood there, muttering my own personal magical enchantment. Huh? Huh? Both Madurai and Naegi looked at me with vacant expressions, stunned by what I was saying. What do you mean it has nothing to do with you? A confused Madurai growled, raising his voice. There's no way you're not involved. At the least, it's your fault this boy here has been caught up in all this. You're wrong, I found myself replying flatly. I'm not the reason he got involved in this whole thing. He did it himself. It's not my fault he has god-awful luck. In the end, I really have nothing to do with this. Jesus fucking Christ, Ryoko, and it's what I was talking about a little while ago, really showing its ugly head about how kind of in her own world she really is. Hey, wait a... As Naegi tried to interrupt me, I raised my voice to continue my argument. It's a shame, but it's obvious Naegi has no luck at all, I said in the calmest tone I could muster. It just so happens his luck is bad enough that it can lead to the loss of a life. It's just something he has to deal with. Anyway, no matter the situation, it's going to be forgotten. After all, I forget everything sooner or later with the exception of Matsuda. As far as I see it, there's not really much out there that actually does have anything to do with me. Jesus Christ, that's so fucked up, but it's really cool and interesting. I continued to mutter to myself these words. In all truth, I really had nothing to do with it. And I'll forget this too. My brief meeting with Naegi, the information he knew. I'll forget all of it. There's no reason for me to feel bad about him. That's why I always say this has nothing to do with me. That's so fucked up! God, that's such a interesting concept, and it's like, it's something that like the vast majority of people can't relate to, because very few people can ever really be in Ryoko's footsteps. Which is what makes it so interesting, because it's a lens into a character that's so different from what I know. Have you decided what you're going to do? I don't know. I keep telling you this has nothing to do with me, I answered blankly. Is that so? I see. Madurai bared his teeth, murmuring in a low voice. I hope you're prepared to see the full extent of my resolve. There really are strange people in the world who would really go as far as to kill another human in order to prove a point. It's insane to think he would accomplish anything at all by killing Naegi. Well, he really doesn't have any luck. He's gotten himself in a hostage situation after all. This is the end. Madurai gripped Naegi's skull with all the strength in his hands and... You're wrong! Who the fuck? A voice resounded throughout the room, instantly dissipating the tension in the air. Is this gonna be Matsuda? That doesn't feel like a Matsuda line. At that moment, a figure flew into the lab and slid toward Madurai shortly before hammering the back of their fist into his nose and causing it to bend at a strange angle. No, we're not even getting a gender yet. His eyes squinted to a near close in pain, causing him to lose sight of his attacker as he fell. After giving Madurai a further blow to the chest, the stranger turned to Naegi and took his head in their hands before moving to pick him up. They set him gently on the nearby bed and turned around just in time to see Madurai lunging toward them. The stranger flew into a surprisingly graceful roundhouse kick and hit him square on the chin, as if it had been his sole weak point. Madurai's head rocked violently, and he fell to the ground with no energy left. This whole incredible scene I just witnessed, it passed in the blink of an eye. As the kick ended, the stranger came into a silent landing on the ground. Their skirt gently floated down. Oh, they're a girl. Ikusaba! Okay. This is big. We got her. Holy shit. Okay, this is big for multiple reasons, right? So, like, outside of the little bit of pseudo Junko, pseudo Mukuro that we got in the post game, like free time with Junko, we've got no Mukuro. Now, I know the if story, because obviously if you guys don't know, the next thing after we do 0, we're doing the if story that you unlock by beating Danganronpa 2. That's in Danganronpa 2, and that is a Mukuro if story. Fucking hyped for that, by the way, because we're doing this, then we're doing that, then we're doing Ultra Despair Girls, then we're doing the DR3. DR3, not V3. I'm gonna specify the anime. But, so, we have actually gotten no Mukuro in the entire fucking story up to this point, like legit. This is the first time we're actually gonna get the meme herself, Mukuro Ikusaba, and I am so fucking excited to learn more about this character. And like, obviously Mukuro coming into the story is super fucking interesting because Mukuro is Junko's sister, so there's a lot there, let's just say that. And obviously Ultimate Soldier, so no surprise that Mukuro can fuck shit up, even if it is someone really scary like Madurai. She is like insane. Anyways, Ikusaba, Naegi called out from the bed in relief, and obviously Mukuro also part of Makoto's class. Ikusaba. I guess that's this girl's name. Either way, this is the first time I've heard it. No, it's not. Naegi got up from the bed and ran hurriedly to the girl. Thank you, Ikusaba. Thank you so much, he said, repeating his gratitude over and over again. Despite the praise, however, the girl remained entirely calm and composed in her response. Well, I say calm and composed, but it really seemed more like she just didn't feel anything. I was only helping my classmate, she mumbled quietly. As she spoke, she stubbornly avoided his gaze, but it's odd. Looking at her now, you would have never guessed she was fighting brilliantly only a few moments beforehand. Ah, but Ikusaba, why are you here anyway? Admittedly, I was wondering the same thing. Usually it's only Matsuda in this lab. That's what I had written down in my notes, at least. And not only does he seem to be absent today, but he's had several visitors. Maybe he's been working on something big? Oh, you wanted to peek in at your, sister? Ikusaba raised her voice slightly, but it was still hardly above a whisper. I had to strain just to hear it all. I was just passing by? Eh? Why'd you phrase it like a question? I asked without thinking. Same old Ikusaba, Naegi continued as if he'd heard nothing from me. So you were just passing by when you came across what was happening and jumped in to save us. Ikusaba nodded silently in response. That's incredible. You really saved me. I was getting worried for a moment there. Thank you, Ikusaba. Thank you so much. Naegi sighed a breath of relief and continued to repeat his sincere thanks, seemingly embarrassing Ikusaba in the process. I was really lucky you happened to be passing by. I was so lucky. Luck. Somehow, That was how we were saved. Pure luck. Even if you didn't believe in the concept. All thanks to such a strong person who was passing by. We were able to escape from such a predicament. Astonishingly convenient good luck. On the other hand, Madurai's actions were the polar opposite. So this is ultimate luck? Whether good or bad, I couldn't help but feel that it was all because of Naegi's talent that we were caught up in the entire mess. Excuse me? What? I suddenly realized that Ikusaba was standing directly in front of me. Yikes. How did I not notice her? Did she teleport or something? Ellipses. For some reason, she remained silent. Ellipses. I waited for her to show any sign at all that she was going to speak, but I ended up giving in and speaking up first. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much for earlier. Naegi reacting strongly to the fact that Junko doesn't recognize Mukuro. So this is interesting. This is like it's a bit subtle, but because you would think, oh, well, she didn't recognize Makoto. They're in the same class, but the difference, of course, Naegi's surprised because, again, assuming, I keep having to say assuming, but assuming that Ryoko and Junko are one and the same, he's surprised because even if there are memory loss issues, he would expect Ryoko to remember her own sister. So, there you go. Naegi blurted out in surprise. He walked into our mutual line of sight, blinking in disbelief. But what was so surprising? I'm Mukuro Ikusaba. I tilted my head a bit to the side. In response, Ikusaba spoke a little louder. I'm the ultimate soldier from the 78th class. Nice to meet you. She spoke without blinking, her mouth moving as subtly as possible. The moment she finished, she returned to utter silence. Ellipses. If I were to guess, she seemed to just be a quiet girl by nature. Then again, she's the ultimate soldier. She probably acts like this around everyone. Perhaps all soldiers are like this? I haven't met any members of the military before, so I have no way of knowing at all. Ellipses. I was in silence with her. Ellipses. Naegi was silent as well, though just as puzzled as before. Ellipses. Oh my fucking god. Madurai, still foaming at the mouth, was silent too, of course. Everyone was silent. An awkward, lengthy silence. But the awkwardness didn't last long. After some time, I forgot about it entirely. Instead, something else entirely occupied me mind. Okay, Mr. Krabs. My mind. Ah, now that I think about it, Matsuda isn't here. That's right, the only thing I can ever remember is Matsuda. I wonder if he's on an errand. I want to see him soon. I hope he comes back quickly. My thoughts of Matsuda continued as I stared into space and... Solid snake ellipses! The girl crouched down suddenly. I think her name was Ikusaba? What's wrong? The surprised boy, Naegi, I think, asked. The girl replied in a cautious tone. I love how, like, her mind just slips back to her Matsuda, and then she just immediately starts forgetting everything. That kind of even tells you that it might be some weird, like, self-imposed, like, mental block bullshit, right? Like, fucking hell, it's so... There's all these, like, little subtle details that I'm noticing that might just be coincidence, but I don't think they are. I'm a little low on water here. I'm not sure I'm gonna get through this. Also, this is a fucking long chapter. It's so weird because... the way this story is structured, you get like these super short chapters, and then you might get a chapter like this that just keeps going and going and going. Someone's here. Instantly, the atmosphere in the lab became far more tense. Are they hiding? Is this gonna be our boy, Kamishiro? Sorry for interrupting. I wasn't trying to hide, but you really shouldn't spread rumors about people. Oh, okay. The voice, which called out from nowhere in particular, had each of us instinctively looking around the lab. Huh? Regardless, no matter how hard we looked, there was no sign of anyone. No, I'm here. Look, over here. Where? Feeling somewhat panicked, I restlessly continued scanning the room. Over there, Naegi called out, pointing toward the lab's door, where Ikusaba was headed. I noticed a little later than the others, but right in front of the door stood a boy with a pure, innocent face. Oh. You finally noticed me? His face lacked any distinctive features, and strangely enough, his voice seemed to lack any uniqueness as well. Is this ultimate imposter? Yeah, I'm assuming it's Kamishiro, but for a second I started thinking ultimate imposter. It took you a little while, but you noticed me in the end. Well, it's my talent's fault, so it can't be helped. I'll forgive you. Why is there a kid here? Naegi blurted out, startled by the boy. Hey, you shouldn't treat me like a kid. I don't think it's that rare to see someone with a baby face, but I'm a meritorious high school student at Hope Speak Academy. I went to the trouble of using a difficult word like meritorious. Oh, what's all this? The boy's line of sight fell to the floor where Madurai lay. My, oh my, looks like you've gotten yourselves into quite a mess. You're wrong about that. Naegi quickly ran in between the boy and Madurai, trying to obstruct his view. It's not what it looks like. How do I explain? The boy patted his hand on Naegi's shoulder. Don't fret. There's no need to make excuses around me. I'm actually also investigating this case. Isn't that right, big sis? Despite being called upon to back up the boy's point, I didn't remember anything about it at all. I wasn't able to muster any more than a hesitant, I guess so, as I tilted my head to the side. Huh? Don't tell me you've forgotten about me again. He folded his arms, looking strangely happy as he nodded. Well, I'm used to people forgetting who I am, so it's fine. It's just another side effect of my talent. I mean, look, I said I have no presence, didn't I? People don't notice me very often, and they say that they forget about me a lot. But you know, big sis. The boy started rubbing his hands and raised his voice again. I'd like to request that this time when I say my name, you remember it. I am Yudo Kamishiro. I'm the ultimate spy from the 77th class. Wait a second. I protested as the boy came closer. I opened up Ryoko Otonashi's memory notebook and quickly skimmed to try and find any memories that mentioned the boy. Oh, I got it. Kamishiro. I remember you. Kamishiro with absolutely no unique features whatsoever. I wouldn't say none, murmured Ikusaba with a neutral expression. He looks like a doll made by an inept politician. Nothing but bad vibes. I didn't think she was the type to say things so bluntly. Well, she is a soldier, even if she is has a very docile personality on the surface. I didn't think, Kamishiro glared at her for a moment before his gaze returned to me. As he began speaking once more, he did so in an over-the-top voice. Well then, it's really awful you're so forgetful, big sis. When you told me the first time, I thought you were joking. Honestly, I almost laughed it off. Hey, Naegi interjected from the bed. That really isn't something you should tell someone to their face. Kamishiro, however, brushed it off because he's a silly potato. I don't need to be careful. I've always thought being careful was for losers. But I don't suppose you have any experience with that, do you, big bro? In any case, I understand completely now. Kamishiro slipped past Naegi and stood in front of me, making sure we were face to face before saying any more. You really are amazingly forgetful. Saying such ditzy things doesn't really seem like it'd fit you, but I kind of like it. Actually, now that I think about it, there are a lot of girls out there who are pretty ditzy like you. I gotta admit, my equipment down south gets a little harder just talking about them. What the fuck? Bro literally hit him with the fucking blitz, the line, the daddy likey dummy line. What the fuck? We all stood there, blinking in surprise at the sudden explicit reference. Well, in any case, you're my client, so I'm genuinely relieved to see nothing happen to you. But in the end, Kamishiro directed his line of sight back to Madurai. No matter how much I think it over, I can't decide if this little detail is a bad situation or not. I thought it really might be, you know. They say I've got a warm enough personality to melt all the ice cream in a convenience store. Though I guess that might annoy some people. Because that's just my nature, I honestly can't make heads or tails of why this had to happen. I think it might have been overkill. Naegi began, apologizing once again for the scene. Or, I guess it's better to say it was self-defense. That's not what I meant, Kamishiro said, hitting him lightly. As he slowly walked over to Madurai's body, he mumbled to himself. Honestly, talk about a worst-case scenario. Well, can't do anything about it now. When he wakes up, will you resort to violence again? What'll you do? You can't just leave him here now, can you? Well, if we all go to the security department and explained, we can't do that, big bro. Kamishiro stared at Naegi, analyzing him. You do know I came all the way here just so I could have an important talk with my client. You understand. It's a very important talk, got it? What I'm trying to say is, we're far too busy. But... Naegi found himself completely overpowered by Kamishiro's icy cold stare. Then, unexpectedly, a voice called out from a few meters away. I'll do something about it. Everyone turned to look at Ikusaba, who quickly lowered her gaze to the ground and repeated herself. I'll do something about it. By yourself? Kamishiro asked, drawing closer to her. The girl nodded. The heck? You're so quiet. You sure you know what you're doing? The girl nodded. Suddenly, like the flip of a switch, Kamishiro's eyes began sparkling brightly. I see. I get it now. You can take care of this all this by yourself, Hearing that really puts my mind at ease. Oh, and by the way, it would be best not to mention any of this to the security department. It'll be pretty hard to deal with those guys. Man, this is a really long chapter. It just keeps going and going at this rate. God, I mean, who knows? That's the thing. We might not even be close to finishing this chapter. If this chapter keeps going like this, it might take the rest of the video to finish this fucking chapter. Oh, wait a second. Naegi interrupted him again. If we don't explain the situation to them properly, they'll blame Ikusaba. Huh? I'm so fucking sick of the haws. Kamishiro stared intently at Naegi. His sudden assertion made his young, childish face vanish, and I felt myself grow hot in discomfort. Naegi, meanwhile, remained dead silent. You still don't get it, even though I've said it 1,000,000 times already? Big Sis and I are busy. We have no time to help you clear this up. You side characters can go ahead and do all that without our permission. In fact, since you guys resorted to such a violent solution in the first place, I'd say it makes you the bad guys. If it were me, I would have done a much better job. Holy shit, there you get to see that other side of Kamishiro. He continued to prattle on about his self-importance. Naegi couldn't find the words to say in response, but somehow he was managing to keep his cool. Very funny to get called to call Makoto a side character. From the sidelines, Ikusaba softly spoke once again. It's okay, I'll do something about it, so... Ikusaba! It's fine. With 2 short words, she managed to silence the worried Naegi. Kamishiro and I turned to one another as he muttered something directly to me. It might be good for us to head off now. He then raised his voice, addressing everyone. Well then, it's decided. An innocent smile lit up Kamishiro's face as he clapped his hands happily. Leave the job to Big Sis over there. Ditzy Sis and I are gonna go somewhere else. Yay, let's go, let's go. He grabbed my hand, acting like a child dragging his exhausted parents to the toy store. Wait a mo... It's fine, it's fine. You want to get back to your peaceful old life, don't you, sis? Just quiet down and come with me. He continued dragging me along behind him until we reached the door of the lab. I looked back hopelessly. Ikusaba watched me, ever expressionless, and Naegi, who looked worried again, stood up. He took a single step, a look of determination etched in his face, before halting with a startled pause as Ikusaba laid a hand on his shoulder. That's good. Mukuro was like, no. You don't do anything right now, Makoto. Subtleties. I love it. As he turned to look at her, she cautioned him with a quiet shake of her head. With that, Naegi's shoulders relaxed and he seemed to give in. He looked back to me once more, and then the two of them disappeared from my line of sight. Now then, onward, let's do our best, Kamishiro cheered in excitement the moment we entered the hallway. Time to solve your problem, he continued on, leaving me behind for a moment. Ah, wait for me, I called out as I hurriedly ran after him, but my mind was elsewhere. It is really... It is really interesting because this entire scene was like really... It is really interesting because what they do here with Mukuro is so cool. Like that, like obviously we didn't really get a lot because obviously Mukuro is kind of like, is clearly like a kudere type character, at least in this context. Now we don't know what she's like with Junko. So like she might be different with Junko, but at the very least, as far as like her default mode, she does seem like quite the kudere, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, just the little subtleties of this scene were really fucking well done. And again, we got this interaction involving Mukuro, which was super interesting. And yeah, I mean, again, I'm still full steam ahead on my theory here. I couldn't help thinking about the way Naegi looked at me in that last moment. His eyes seemed to deliver to me a burning sense of unease. The boy named Makoto Naegi didn't seem particularly reliable and had a weak presence, but in the depths of his eyes at that moment, there was an incredible strength which seems to emanate from his very core and shatter all my previous notions of who this person was. He seemed to look at me with a dazzling aura. Whether there was a problem, whether he faced an unbeatable enemy, I knew he would always have a strength so powerful he could never give up. Such an unforeseeable person, staring directly at me with those eyes. I don't understand how I could feel so strangely about it, as though he were some unusual, mysterious force. However, I doubt I'll ever need to know. After all, he has nothing to do with me. And that's not just a reason I'm using because it suits me. I just genuinely feel as though he has basically nothing to do with me. It was as though we were from alternate dimensions. Naegi's story and my own will never cross paths again. In the end, we have nothing to do with each other. That's how it felt. For some reason. So with that in mind, I'll forget the boy. Oh my god. That is fucking brilliant. Holy fucking shit. Oh, if only you knew, Ryoko. If only you knew. That... Oh, that is so cool. If anything, that made me feel a lot more confident that I am right about Ryoko. Because it just fits so well. Like, what the fuck? That is awesome, though. Oh my god, that's so cool. Is this the end of the chapter? That was what I had concluded as I walked down the halls of the biology building. In fact, in just a matter of minutes, I had completely forgotten his existence. Holy shit, that was amazing. We're gonna keep going, because I promised more than this. One, that chapter was fucking insanely long. And two, that chapter was glorious. And three, I think that would be a perfect cutoff point. But because the last episode was on the shorter side, and like I said, I did promise at least a 2-hour video. We are creeping near 2 hours, but we are definitely going to do at least one more chapter. We'll have to see. I mean, the chapters vary so much in length, and we'll have to see where the next one ends off. But we're going to do at least one more chapter of Danganronpa 0 Volume 2. But that was absolutely fucking incredible. And I fucking love the story. And oh my god, the way that, like, encounter with Madurai, with all the fucking M names, Madurai, Makoto, Mukuro, and then, you know, Kamishiro just chilling over there. That whole, like, scene was fucking awesome. And that was one of my favorite scenes. Honestly, probably my favorite scene that wasn't a, like, Junko scene. Like, the Junko Ryoko scenes have been probably my favorite, but I think that was my favorite scene that didn't involve Junko, and a contender for my favorite scene overall. That was such a good scene, and I just, oh god, the little interactions in that scene with everyone was just so good, and, like, the little subtle kind of nods to... It feels like now we're at that point where we are kind of subtly pushing the narrative that I've been pushing for quite a while. It definitely feels that way to me at the very least. So yeah, that was a tremendous chapter of DR0. I fucking loved that. And it was really interesting. And that fucking ending with Ryoko's kind of mental thoughts about Makoto before she forgets completely forgets who he is because she doesn't write anything in the notebook about him was just fucking fire. Like, that was so cool, and obviously seemed to heavily imply to me that Ryoko is in fact a certain fashionista, and that's just like, oh, that's such a great fucking... Everything about that was just fan-fucking-tastic, and I'm so excited to, oh, God, it's killing me. We're creeping to 60% through the story, by the way, which would be pretty good progress, because we did, I think, enter this at, like, 46% or something, because, yeah, like I said, it does seem like Volume 2 is slightly longer than Volume 1, but we're at 57% now, which is pretty good. Because if we get through 14%... because this is part 5, we'd be on pace, I think, then to finish by, like, part 8, which would be good. I definitely want to, I don't want this to go past 9 episodes. I'd be happy with 8. Like, 8 feels right, but I don't want this to go past 9 episodes, because that is, I feel like I can get through this without going into double digits. We'll have to see whether or not that's actually the case, but I personally feel like we can do that. But, you know, we're creeping along. We're in the second half of the story now, which is really fucking cool. It feels like we're making significant progress into Danganronpa 0. And even though it had been over 2 months since any parts had come out, you guys are getting parts in, like, with a few days from each other. So, you know, it kind of... And now we're balanced out. Now we're back on the normal rotation. This is the first video of the rotation back to normal, where it's back to being, you know, Danganronpa, in slot 1, and it'll come around, you know, each rotation normally, and I have every intention of following through with that moving forward. It's just, like I said, it just kind of kept getting pushed back a little, but this is where it comes back around and makes up for it, is that you end up getting these 2 Danganronpa sets really close to each other, so it kind of works out in the end in that way. So that's really cool. I mean, obviously, a big part, like, it was delayed more than other stuff, but in general, everything has been slow because I've just been kind of absent as a whole, doing the whole YouTube thing. But now we're, you know, kind of back in full force, and we're getting everything back on track, which is awesome. And now Danganronpa 0 is back on track, which is awesome, and we are making significant progress towards actually wrapping it up, which is great. Even though we still have a long way to go, obviously, like I said, probably, I would imagine, at least 3 more episodes after this one, but hey, you know, slowly but surely, we're creeping our way there, I guess. So anyways, let's check out Chapter 4. Maybe the last chapter of this video. We'll have to see how long Chapter 4 is and how I'm feeling after that. No guarantees after this. Like I'm absolutely going to get through Chapter 4, but I have no idea if we're going to go further than Chapter 4. Because we are nearing the 2-hour mark, which is what I wanted to minimum get through 2 hours of content. And we are going to do at least 2 hours of content, because I am going to do at least Chapter 4. If Chapter 4 is really long, we'll probably stop after Chapter 4. If it's short, we might go another one. We'll have to see. Anyways, red eyes. So red that the whites seemed almost painted as they slowly turned toward their guest. Addressing these red, strained eyes, Yasuke Matsuda muttered a question. How long have you been conscious? The eyes blinked for a strangely long time. And then the person on the bed, the Ultimate Student Council president, Soshun Murasame, opened his mouth slowly. His lips were parched and made a coarse, dry sound as he opened his mouth. Always. His voice was quiet and hoarse. He sounded like a completely different person in comparison to his past self. So that's how it's been. A grin crept into Matsuda's expression. He turned to his friend, showing a genial smile. Don't you think it's a bit stupid to trick me like that? Murasame didn't make a sound. His eyes showed no emotion as he stared at Matsuda. To try and alleviate the tension in the atmosphere, Matsuda continued in his joking tone. Must have taken a lot of acting on your part. Any actual physiological symptoms of shock have disappeared almost entirely. And yet you are essentially able to cease being a normal person, right down to a lack of response to stimuli. Wouldn't be in this situation had I seen through your act. Why did you come? Murasame asked, his voice seeming violent despite how quiet it was. As if giving up, Matsuda's light expression returned to a more sober one. You know, I keep asking myself that. Even after those ancient artifacts, even asked those ancient artifacts from the steering committee. I want to find out whether you're truly coherent or not. In response, Murasame only looked away, slowly redirecting his attention to the ceiling and blinking without meaning. To be honest, even I'm having my doubts. Matsuda licked his dry lips before continuing. What if I told those old men that you're actually awake? Murasame remained silent to Matsuda's questioning. Like a remote-controlled car with a flat battery, his reactions were slow and sluggish at best. Maybe it wasn't just acting. Matsuda breathed out a deep sigh. He had just answered his own question. Still, I'm sure the news would surprise them. After that, I can already guess what will happen. You know what they say, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Desperate times call for desperate measures, all of that. For now, they're relying entirely on influential people from outside the school to cover up the incident. And that was their mistake, and that's where a certain fashionista was able to use her influence and her manipulation to escalate. Instead of looking for some formal reaction from Murasame, Matsuda turned toward the surrounding electronic equipment, as if trying to communicate with it. After all, they can't afford to make up excuses for something like this. It'd be like allowing a known threat into the general public. You can't just pretend there's no danger. Some people say that for researchers to be worth a damn, they have to be cutthroat. Well, not that it matters. How ruthless they are here depends on how much talent there is at stake. Oh yeah! Even more than you know, Matsuda, because Ikaru... I don't know why I keep saying Ikaru. Izuru Kamakura is something else. As Matsuda continued to talk, the bedridden Murasame didn't so much as lift an eyebrow. Soshun Murasame used to be the kind of person who would at least pretend to laugh, no matter how bad the joke was. But it seemed that man was no longer there. Well, the issue certainly isn't depression. With a long sigh, Matsuda brushed his hair out of his face. His long, narrow eyes looked sharply at Murasame. Oi! Murasame! This isn't me trying to bargain or anything, but I do want to tell you so I can make sure you understand. The intentions of the school and the intentions of the steering committee are very different from one another. To be honest, I don't care what those guys think. I just want to know what the hell is happening at this school, so then I'm just pretending, Murasame suddenly replied, his mouth parting slowly to form the words. Matsuda saw him smile, or perhaps he imagined it. In the next moment, any trace of it had completely vanished. Assuming the reaction was real, it proved that the honorable person he once knew was still there. There might be something more to this. Matsuda stood to remove his jacket and untuck his worn-out white shirt, returning to a more familiar appearance. It wasn't as though he had chosen to relax. If anything, it was just the opposite. His getting comfortable seemed to signify that he was finally getting down to business. I get it, I do. I don't think you'll be able to escape just by using this act of yours. Even in this state, you're still worried about this school, and you're willing to fight for it. That's why you're using this act, right? To try and escape the eyes of the steering committee? Matsuda sat down on the bed and leaned in to speak more closely. If I were you, I'd get used to their kind of power. I'll protect you if I have to. Once I give my false report to those guys, you might even be able to help them protect the school. It's not always such a bad thing to fight alongside the bad guys. Once more, Matsuda asked Murasame how his condition was, but the boy didn't reply nor react. No matter what the force behind it is, I still don't know very much about the incident. That's why I need you to push through this and explain it to me, but... Murasame's eyelids drooped slightly. At the very least, from what Matsuda could gather, the movement meant he didn't want to talk about the subject. Matsuda figured this would be the case, but there was a more pressing question, one that he didn't particularly want to hear the answer for, as it was something he was told before. The culprit is Izuru Kamakura, correct? He asked directly. Heard about it from the faculty. Person who survived the incident and then went missing afterward is called Izuru Kamakura. But does that person really exist? After a short silence, Murasame finally opened his mouth. Izuru Kamakura killed the student council. His voice was hoarse from lack of use as it conveyed his message. So then, Izuru Kamakura is real? Matsuda inquired, listening for confirmation. However, Murasame didn't respond. His mouth hung open, stiff and unmoving. Oi, Murasame! Matsuda called out, urging him on. Finally, the boy's mouth moved again. Whatever. Interesting. It was all that he said. Matsuda drew a conclusion from the singular word. So then that doesn't matter. There was no sense of urgency in the story that Murasame held on to, in which case, it couldn't be said for certain whether Izuru Kamakura was actually the culprit behind the incident or not. That must be it, Matsuda thought to himself. There was one more thing, he realized, that he needed to hear above all else. He breathed in heavily, and before giving himself any opportunity to hesitate, he asked his question. What about Junko Enoshima? What connection does she have to the incident? Murasame closed his eyes in a blink that seemed to last forever. The next moment, he opened his eyes once more, and his face was wild and unfamiliar. Tears were threatening to spill from his wide-open eyes. His teeth, now bared, made an audible grinding sound. Where he had once seemed lethargic, he was now crazed. That's when Matsuda realized. The person named Soshun Murasame was no longer there. The man they called the Ultimate Student Council President was completely gone. The boy who was once familiar to him had met his end. That thing before Matsuda opened its mouth painfully wide and began to spit out words that did not even sound like words. I must kill. I must kill. Who? Who are you talking about? Matsuda placed his hands on the thing's bedside and looked down to him as he asked. Huge red strained eyes turned towards Matsuda briefly. Junko Enoshima. Junko Enoshima. Matsuda's body felt as though it were being pummeled as he was overtaken by shock. A moment later, he realized the intense pounding was the beating of his own heart. The harsh impact it had suddenly made caused Matsuda to lose his own voice. It's so fucking good. Holy shit. Matsuda and Ryoko, this fucking dynamic, man. I can't. Suddenly the thing screamed out. Ah. Blood rushed to his face, flushing it to a dark red and making him look like nothing short of a demon. Junko Enoshima, 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 Junko Enoshima. The thing continued to scream horribly, sounding like a harsh broken record. Kill, 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 kill. Yikes. Poor guy. Literally mind broken over here. Without pause, over and over again, he continued to shriek. And as the thing screamed with his entire body, Matsuda began to feel cold. It wasn't that he was calm or collected. That feeling was long gone. It was as if his body temperature itself had dropped. He already understood everything. He already understood everything about the tragedy of Hope's Peak. Soshun Murasame's true enemy and Hope's Peak Academy's true enemy was most likely Junko Enoshima. It was the only conclusion, and he had already guessed it as the worst case scenario. From there, Matsuda had no choice but to move forward with his despair-inducing resolution. So then, I'm out of options. So here's what it comes down to. So this is going to be so interesting. How much does Matsuda love Ryoko? And really, there's three ways to frame it. He loves... So... He tries to achieve the greater good and lets go of Ryoko. He loves Ryoko so much that he won't let her he won't let this beautiful girl he loves turn into Junko. Or he loves Ryoko so much that despite it being the thing he fears the most, he loves Junko too. Right, because I've talked about the possibility. I think this was even before I thought about the possibility of Ryoko and Junko being the same person. But it's the idea of Matsuda becoming a despair, and it's interesting because Junko has said one of her goals is to kill Matsuda. But there might be a world where that can be metaphorical, not literal. I am expecting Matsuda to die in this story, partially because he just hasn't come up, but also, and it's just cleaner to kill him off. Not to say that he can't come up. He could absolutely come up in the anime. I feel like especially would be a spot for him to come up in, whatever that's going to entail. But we'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think he probably is either going to die or become a despair by the end of this. Definitely one or the other. But I'm definitely leaning towards him actually dying. I think that's going to be part of Ryoko's despair for sure. We'll see, though. I passed the point of return a long time ago. Yeah, that... Yeah, I think he's gonna... I think he's gonna do whatever the fuck he has to do to protect Ryoko, and however we're gonna frame that, and this could get really interesting. I passed the point of no return a long time ago. Something in his lower abdomen began to bubble and boil. Dude, what the I just thought of something. Whoa. Whoa, I just thought of something. Wait a minute. I was talking about Ryoko giving Matsuda like a self-induced, like Ryoko giving herself almost like a self-induced, like mental, like sus because of this. What if Matsuda did this to her to try and protect Ryoko from Junko? And when he was, like, running tests on her, it wasn't fucking tests about... Oh, what, bro! Oh my god, like, I've just blown my mind again. To me, this is a revelation similar to the fucking Junko thing. Oh my god, is he fucking... Did he do this to her? Did he, like, lock away her memories? I passed the point of no return a long time ago. Ethics, morals, anything. He'd do anything for Ryoko. Bro, that is horrifying and like amazing. And if Ryoko finds out, it'll be even more despair inducing, but at the same time, it'll be like even stronger romantic feel. If I'm right, this is easily one of the most fucked up ships I've seen in a long time. It's already pretty messed up, but what the fuck? Worst part is, I think I'm right. I legitimately think I'm right. That's fucking insane. Holy shit. I can't believe I didn't think of that sooner. And whether I'm right or not, I can't believe I didn't think of that idea sooner. What the fuck? Something in his lower abdomen began to bubble and boil. As the heat rose, his body flooded with adrenaline, and he turned the thing on the bed. Yeah, I wonder if he's gonna kill him. Hey, I said earlier that I'd protect you if I had to, didn't I? He said, his voice utterly calm. But there's also someone I have to protect at all costs. They're hopeless if I don't, so... They're hopeless if I don't. That is such a cute fucking line. They're hopeless if I don't. Because Ryoko is hopeless, but that has another connotation specifically in Danganronpa. I've decided I'll sacrifice anything I have to in order to do it. As the words left his mouth, they were drowned out by screams. Even so, Matsuda continued. I'm awful. I don't particularly want to think about that. If I neglect the one I care about and they die, the thought is unbearable. So I'll protect them. No matter what happens, I'll protect them. Speaking softly, Matsuda placed both of his hands around the thing's neck. Bro, this is even more fucked up. Because it's like, this in multiple levels, right? So like, on one hand, Matsuda is helping Junko get away with everything. But what's even more fucked up is we know Ryoko's power. And again, I don't know exactly how it translates, but we know how smart Junko is. The worst part about this is Junko there is a very real possibility that Junko calculated all of this. And has calculated Ryoko and Matsuda's love for each other. And that is, ironically, at the center of her plan. Fucking hell, this is crazy. Matsuda about to fucking snap his neck, fucking choke him out. What the fuck? Kill, 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 kill. Even so, the thing continued to shout out, unable to register what was happening. There's a grudge held against me for this, then so be it. Matsuda closed his eyes, thinking to himself, not by them, by myself. In the next moment, Matsuda gathered all of his strength into his hands and squeezed. Finally, the deafening voice, the screams of the thing, had come to a stop. The bed in which he lay started to shake with a loud, rattling sound. Matsuda was leaning forward, his hair falling in front of his eyes. He refused to loosen his grip. Instead, he tightened, putting all of his power into it. Quickly, the bed's shaking subsided. The feeling of what his hands had been wrapped around faded away. The feeling of the thing on the bed ended. After a while, Matsuda finally opened his eyes again. All of the muscles in his exhausted body remained tense, as if he had become a solid piece of iron. Sweat dripped from his forehead, landing on his long eyelashes. His mind blank, he turned his line of sight toward the face of the thing atop the bed. The light from those eyes had disappeared. All that was left was a deep darkness. The darkness in those eyes was deeper than the color of darkness itself. Sounds like those eyes are a little familiar. I think we've seen eyes like that before. I mean, obviously, it's just to represent death, but again, it's interesting in the context of Danganronpa. Oh, I'm very torn. I really wanted to give you guys a 2.5 hour video. This is going to clock in a little short. We're going to be we're past 2 hours and 15 minutes. And obviously, by the time I'm done discussing, this will be, this will get to 220 plus. This is going to clock in just a little under 2.5 hours, but I was tempted even before with the last chapter, if it wasn't the time-wise, but that fucking chapter, Jesus Christ, Matsuda just killed a man. Like, I don't know how I keep going after Matsuda just killed a man. And that was just, I mean, we transitioned from a insanely long, great fucking chapter 3 with Ryoko to a much shorter, but still, decently length chapter 4 with Matsuda that was fantastic. And one of Junko's loose ends has just been silenced, which was glorious to say the least. And man, this story is slowly unraveling. It's starting to all come together. We are apparently now 58% through Danganronpa 0, which means we have 42% left to go. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how it works out. I'd love to finish this in 3 more sessions. So I do kind of have that mental note in my head. But we'll see. Because, yeah, if we were to get through 14%, we have to get through an average of 14% the next 3 times to do that, which is probably what my goal is. I'd like for Part 8 to be the finale of Danganronpa 0. So, no guarantees on that. I imagine at most it's going to be 9. I don't think we're going to do 10 parts, but I'm definitely eyeing for... This is Part 5, of course. I'm eyeing for there to be 3 more videos and for us to finish at Part 8. And then that would also mean that we spent 4 episodes on Volume 1 and 4 episodes on Volume 2, which also just feels right. So, yeah, the plan... And again, I mean, we'll see if this is the case, but the plan would be to do 3 more episodes on Danganronpa 0, and that should, I would hope that 3 more sessions will finish this light novel. But this was a tremendous session again. Like, this story's really picking up. We're in volume 2 now. Shit's starting to get really fucking real. Madurai's immortal and just fucking shows up again, and we get saved by the Mukuro. And then fucking, oh my god, that Matsuda stuff was peak. Holy shit, that Matsuda stuff was insane. You know, he kind of already knew, I think, for a while deep down, but now he basically has his confirmation about Junko being the real threat here. You know, as horrifying as Izuru is, Junko is the real problem in all of this, and I think nobody knows that better than Yasuke Matsuda, and that's the scary thing about all of this, and that's what's so exciting about Matsuda, is he is so acutely aware of the situation at hand and of the problems that Junko and Oshima presents because of his familiarity with Junko, that almost certainly is given the fact that Junko and Oshima and Ryoko Otonashi are the same person. That's just fire, man. It's just, this is great. And it feels really good to be back in this story. I say as I'm tired as fuck because it's 7 a.m. and I'm going to edit this real quick and then upload this and everything. But this was a great read. It was nice to get a little deeper into it because, like I said, in the last video was shorter than I'd like. I'd like these parts to generally be at least 2 hours, which I was able to provide here in this video. We're going to have a recording a little under 2.5 hours, it looks like, because I don't want to drag on too much. I feel like in this one I had, you know, a good few break discussions that went on for a little while, and I think because of that, I got out most of what I needed to say during the read-along, so I don't think I have much post-game thoughts to tell you guys at the moment, so I do think we'll get out of here pretty quickly. But, yeah, that was a tremendous 4 chapters, and, yeah, I have no idea how much we have to go, but, we're 58% through the story, which is pretty cool. So I'm definitely looking forward to more, and I hope all of you are excited for some more DR0 when we jump into part 6 next time. Obviously, the wait will be a little longer than it was between parts 4 and 5, but it will obviously be way shorter than the waits between parts 3 and 4 were, because I have every intention to keep up the daily uploads, but now we're back to regular rotation, and obviously Danganronpa 0, Danganronpa in general, now part of the rotation instead of being like the Friday series, so, you know, we're working with a different kind of setup in general, but I'm definitely looking forward to more Danganronpa, and I hope all of you are as well. It's going to be a lot of fun to jump into the next couple readings because we are getting close to the end, and I think even next, I wouldn't be surprised if next read we're gonna get some crazy reveals, but definitely when we get to like part 7 and, you know, and part 7, 8, and maybe 9, but presumably part 7 and 8 are gonna be batshit fucking insane, even though I know the big reveal feels pretty obvious at this point, the Junko reveal, but I will say that now I have my new theory coming from this episode that I think Matsuda somehow, because he's the ultimate neurologist, he's super fucking smart, at some point while we were at Hope's Peak, I think Matsuda found a way to do what he did to Junko. And, you know, Junko's mind and like, either it's flawed, and like this could even be something, this is what's so cool too, is what Matsuda did could have been a kind of prelude to what would eventually become the Neo World Program. And the reason I say that is because you think about the Neo World Program and its alternate name, the Hope Restoration Program, and you think about what it does, and you think about how it does it and everything about it, it seems very thematic that this might have been a prelude to that, and then his work was expanded upon along with, you know, the work of the Ultimate Therapist and Chihiro, and that's how we eventually got to the proper Neo World Program that would come up in Danganronpa 2. But what's really interesting about that too is that would then make it all the more poetic that Izuru and Alter Ego Junko would use that as the kind of playground for Danganronpa 2 the way that they did. So it makes the so if I'm right about all this, I feel like it makes the story of Danganronpa 2 even more poetic than it otherwise would be, given the context that we're now gaining by reading Danganronpa 0. And you have to remember, of course, that despite the fact that I'm reading Danganronpa 0 post Danganronpa 2, it came out in between Danganronpa 1 and Danganronpa 2. So this work, this story, this LN was canon to the Danganronpa universe prior to DR2. So many people who played, especially the really big fans of the series who played DR2, had likely already read DR0. So they'd feel an even greater, poetic synergy with the ending of DR2, which is really fucking cool. And I like how supplemental material can make you appreciate something even more, while also, the supplemental material was not necessary to appreciate the game at all. Like I said, the game even does have the moment where when they talk about the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy, and there's the very funny works-cited Danganronpa 0 meme in there, in the final chapter of DR2. But yeah, it's fucking great. I'm so glad that I'm reading this. Like I said, I hope those of you who are watching are really enjoying the read along, because I am super happy I'm reading this, but I still don't know how I feel about actually doing the read along of it. It's kind of one of those things that's been a mixed bag. I've had fun, of course, but I think I would have personally, I probably would have enjoyed a little more just reading this in my bed, binging the story, chilling, on my phone reading this. But I also want to give you guys my full experience with Danganronpa. That's kind of part of the point of this Let's Play, is to give you guys this kind of unabridged experience of my journey entering the world of Danganronpa. And while I don't plan to do every fucking side story that exists, I did want to do Danganronpa 0, and I did want to do the If story that's in that you unlock by beating DR2. So I did want to do these stories, and here we are. And now, being a little over halfway through Danganronpa 0, like I said, for those of you who are watching, because I know this is niche, obviously not everyone watches my Danganronpa videos, of course, but obviously even among them, only a segment of the people that watch the Danganronpa videos will actually watch the DR0 read-along. But for those of you who are interested and enjoying the read-along, I hope, this kind of pseudo-podcast reaction hybrid thing, whatever you want to call this, this type of video. They've been fun, though, for sure, and this has been a really fun one. And I actually think this video is going to get to 2.5 hours, because my post-game is turning out to be a lot longer than I thought it would be. So I think this video actually is going to just barely creep past 2.5 hours from the looks of it. But I'm having a lot of fun with this series. I'm really excited to kind of get to the nitty-gritty, get to the end of DR0. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of get to the final parts when things are getting really dramatic. I mean, hell, we literally just watched one of our main characters murder someone at the end of this reading. So obviously things are getting kind of cracked. Things are getting kind of wild, to say the least. And God, the Ryoko stuff that we're going to probably get near the end, and the Matsuda stuff, honestly, both of these characters, the things they're going to go through, I am such a sadistic bastard, because I'm so fucking hyped to see the pain, the torture, the despair that Matsuda and Ryoko are going to go through in the coming episodes of our Danganronpa 0 read-along, because this is going to be fucking hype. I am actually so fucking excited for these next, like I said, hopefully the final 3 episodes, but 3 or 4, whatever it ends up being, the final episodes, the second half, whatever, of Danganronpa 0. It's going to be fucking amazing, and I'm I'm just having a good time. This has been a great series. It's 7:17 in the morning though, so and I still need to edit this and render it and get it up to YouTube. So I think we are going to call it here. If you guys want to support the channel, my Patreon is down below in the description, as is my Discord server. And if you want to get in touch with me, DMing me on Discord is typically going to be your best bet. So anyways, without any further ado, it's time for me to bid you adieu. Flamin' Shark signing out. Hope you all have a wonderful, fantastical day, and I will see you next time with another video. Thanks for watching. Peace.